Yay! What's up, GR crew? Welcome to the after show. I realize that I think we were live for a couple seconds there. I apologize about the silence, but Kim is just putting some groceries away in the fridge. We just had someone knock on our door, so she'll be joining us in just a second. But I am going to pull up her side chat window. She has some questions already pulled aside, but we're going to start with, here she comes. We're going to start with this. I'm just really excited about your race this weekend, Maria. Have you, you've run the Volcanic 50 before, you've run around Mount St. Helens before.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges or unique parts about this race? Like what brought you back to run around Mount St. Helens?
I was not happy with my performance last year. I was happy that and just a backstory, Tad and I, my husband Tad, we ran the Mount St. Helen course 2 weeks before the race last year to see if there was anything scary about the race. Like I don't do any races that are potentially dangerous. I just don't do them. So we did it for the experience and to make sure that the race was fine. And it was so far out of my comfort zone. This race it starts with boulder fields. Then you have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Just climb down this go into this rope, maybe 60 feet down, cross a river, climb back up. So there's like these obstacles involved. There's scree fields, there's exposure, there's running on edges. Basically everything that terrifies me is in this one race. And when Tad and I were doing it together, honestly, like we were fighting the whole time. And the funny thing is, St. Helen is a patron saint of difficult marriages. This is kind of funny. So she wasn't with us that day, but we survived. But I'm like, there's no way I'm running this race. My anxiety just being just so loud. And I don't know how I decided, but I ended up doing the race. And so, but I ran it scared. The places that scared me, there's the scree field. I actually stopped and waited until the person behind me caught up and I could be like, excuse me, sir. It was a man. Can I hold on to your shirt as we run across the scree field? And he's like, sure. Like everyone's so nice, but he's like, what is this weirdo? And so we're going across the scree field and he stops to take a picture. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're racing. Like, let's keep going. And he's like, but he's like, you go on ahead. And I'm like, and Tad is actually up ahead yelling at me, come on, Maria, let's go. And oh my gosh, I get across the scree field. And then once I get to the top, there's a section that's right on the edge. And I don't know how far the drop off is. But again, I just halted. I just dropped him like a dog when you're trying to pull a dog to like the vet or something. That's who I was. And I was frozen. And again, I waited until actually a friend of yours as well, Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
I waited till he caught back up because when you climb the ropes, you can only go one at a time. And so it kind of spaces everybody out for safety reasons. I waited on him and I ran with him the rest of the way. And I did not run my own race. And there were parts where he, was kind of behind and I was like, come on, Jeff, let's go. And it was fun. It was great. We shared the experience together. And then he would take off on the boulder for the technical parts where I'm not as good at, but I did not run my own race. And I was proud that I did the race despite having anxiety 2 weeks before, but man, I haven't stopped thinking about that race since. And I am determined to go back this Saturday. And I know I can destroy that race. I know I'm actually fitter than I have been in a long time. I'm super strong right now. I know I can do it. It's just up here. And so I haven't stopped thinking about that race ever since. So,
hell yeah.
But everything about that race scares me, everything. So, just letting you guys know that I'm out there. Like I told Tad, like if I don't come back, will you come look for me? And he's like, of course. I'll come look for you, So, yeah, it's hard. And again, it's way out of my comfort zone. I'm not good at technical. I'm getting better, but I can catch up on the runnable parts if I don't let the anxiety of the heights and the exposure get to me. So I'll think about you guys and just, I know I have this community behind you, which means everything. everything.
I can promise you right now, our community watching this exact after show, we will all be thinking about you on
Oh,
Saturday.
that would
Many
be
of them
so
will be
nice.
sending
Thank
you
you.
messages and stuff.
Thank you.
So you've got
So
a whole team.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got the biggest crew out there, if you think of
Awesome.
it that
So
way.
lucky.
Yeah. We have tons of questions popping in here into the
Sure.
post show. Plus, Kim's pulled some stuff aside. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, a question from Kim Wrinkle in the chat room. Kim says, what are the main dietary concerns or issues for Crohn's sufferers?
Oh man. Thanks for the question, Kim. And I think that so when we're getting into medical nutrition therapy, I want to be very careful about how I answer that. And that is something that honestly I'd be more comfortable taking offline because that is so specific and because that is a medical issue that needs medical supervision and guidance. I don't feel comfortable giving a blanket statement for that. And that's definitely something, if you want to reach out to me offline, I'm happy to ask you some follow up questions to be able to better answer that for you.
And Kim Wrinkle's been a longtime supporter and avid endurance athlete. So, yeah, Kim, follow up.
Yeah. A2B2 in the chat room asks, I grew up in a large family and have always eaten really fast because of it. Do you have any tips for curbing this habit? It seems like this leads to overeating.
Yes, that is a great example. I have another t-shirt. I'm sorry. I have another t-shirt, but it's slow the fork down.
That's the name of your first book. That's your first book.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It sticks with people's heads, so I'm sorry I had to say it. But honestly, it takes just a simple practice. If you're used to inhaling your food, whether if you're on a strict time schedule or that you're worried that food's not available, the practice of putting your fork down. It doesn't, and it can be a mindful practice of focusing on one meal at a time. Again, none of these steps have to be all at once. It doesn't have to be this overhaul. And I think a lot of the times people become discouraged because they think it has to be, but it's strategic. These small steps that are doable that'll give you confidence to keep building upon. So my challenge to you would be to pick a meal, one meal. And say, this meal, I'm going to put my fork down between bites. I'm not going to load it up while I still have my mouth full. I'm going to set it down. I'm going to take a drink of water. I might get up. I might see how I feel. And I would start there. That's
great advice.
Yeah, agreed.
Chuck Hall in the chat room really wants to talk about poop.
Oh, okay. Actually, the nickname my mom and dad give me. I am not joking.
Another t-shirt.
little poop. Yeah. Don't ask me how that got started, but that's how
that t-shirt alone, little poop. A lot of questions. People be like,
little poop.
What? Little poop.
Chuck says, we all look at our pee to tell if we were hydrated or not. What can we learn about our diet by looking at our poop?
I would say consistency and how not just what it looks like, but how often you go. Some people's normal is once a day. Some people's normal is 3 times a day. Some people's normal is 3 times a week. Whatever your normal is, monitor that. And if something deviates from what your normal is, then it would be like, what's going on here? Did I, should I, if it's looking a different color, rather than thinking, oh my goodness, I have a kidney problem, or did I just eat a large amount of beets? Thinking, what could the potential problem be? Did I eat something? Did I take a medication? Was I on antibiotics? But if something is concerning, by all means, go get it checked. Don't hesitate. This is, again, your health, your values. So don't hesitate to ask, and there's no need to be embarrassed.
Great question from Nathaniel in the chat room. Nathaniel says, passions run high when discussing nutrition in the public space. As a professional, why do you think this issue has become so polarizing? And do you have any funny stories regarding this issue? And to continue on from that question, I have a question. How often do you have to censor yourself from saying what you want to say on social if you see another athlete or,
Yeah, it's hard. I'll start at the first part, which, sorry, now I'm on Kim, your part. What's the first part of the question? I'm sorry, Kim.
Why do you think it's so polarizing? Yeah.
I honestly think it's because of a diet culture out there saying I have the one answer for you. We all want to be bigger, better, faster, stronger right now. We all have that in common. We want to be the best version of ourselves. And because everybody eats, and because we are vulnerable to this ideal, this standard, everybody has an opinion, because everybody eats, and everybody, if they have success with it, they want to share because people are asking for those answers. And so it's kind of a supply and demand thing, I guess you could put it that way. What's the second part of the question?
Do you have any funny stories regarding
Oh
it?
gosh. Funny stories regarding, gosh, I don't know. I just want to, not off the top of my head, I just don't understand what people think sometimes. Like, I just really want to know what are their intentions behind what they're doing. And the people that I see on social media, I see it all the time. You guys, I bang my head against the wall. I've even looked at going back to school, because I just get so overwhelmed with people who have no right to tell this person what they should be doing just because of the way they look. I'm this great athlete. I look like this. Do you want meal plans with your coaching package? Do you want? And that is a trigger for me. So I try to stay out of drama. I don't, unless somebody is, harming themselves. I don't, call, especially people who I look up to, who, are elites in our field, but people who are pushing a certain way of eating on others, that is elitism. That is working from a place of privilege. An example would be people pushing plant-based or vegetarian diets. I'm all for that. I eat a predominantly plant-based diet. But to push that on others who might not have the resources to do so, who might not know how to cook vegetables, who, if they do so, might not be eating enough to fuel their bodies, to saying that only organic is best, that's doing a disservice in a society where we don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. So if you tell somebody only organic, well, they're going to be like, well, what's the point of eating fruits and vegetables? I can't eat organic, so I'm not going to eat fruits and vegetables. So we have to be really careful of the message that we're sending people. And again, but we also have to take responsibility ourselves and be sleuths about who's giving me this information. Take a step back. And I, who am so aware of it, I can call out the bullshit just so easily. Even I'll be scrolling through and I'll be like, oh, I should have had my burger on a seaweed wrap, and I had it on a white bun. And then I'm like, what are you talking about, Maria? Stop being dumb. We're all, steeped in this. And so it takes a conscious effort, but be sleuths. Ask yourself, wait a minute, what are they trying to sell? What's their point? What are their credentials? Question everything. Even everything I'm saying, ask why, question me. Don't take anything, take everything with a grain of salt.
I love that. Oh my God, what the hell was I just going to say? There's like,
I know, yeah.
I'm sitting there in my head. I'm like,
my life. Yeah. Don't feel bad.
Oh my God, I don't remember.
Diets are polarizing, social media.
I think it was just slow the fork down or something witty and funny like that. Maybe one more question.
Yeah. Deb in the chat room says, have you had experience with stomach upset or vomiting at races? And do you recommend certain foods to avoid that later in ultras?
I personally have never, but then again, I have not run a distance yet that has really pushed that boundary. I've run 150 miler. I've run a lot of mountain marathons and 50Ks, but something that kind of goes where you start to experience that GI distress. I have not been susceptible to that or experienced it myself. But this is a great question. And again, something that there's not, a blanketed answer for. And it's something that you have to think about when you're preparing for a race is, do you want to have a set routine or a set, amount of calories? For example, when I was pacing Caitlin Gerben at Western States, she had every aid station, she had, this is what I'm eating, this is what I'm taking, and it takes the thinking out of it. So you're saving energy, you're saving time. However, the downside of that is there was a section that I was pacing, she couldn't get the goo down anymore. But that's all the fuel that she had. So rather than having a backup, she went without fueling during that section. And so it's a question of, basically, first you have to ask, what are your goals for the race? Are you meeting some sort of time or PR, or are you there for the experience? If you're there for the experience and have time to be like, what does my body need right now? Does a peanut butter and jelly sandwich sound good right now? Hey, I'm going to stop at the aid station. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to thank the volunteers. But if you're going after a certain time pursuit or a PR, it might be helpful to have a small selection of what I personally like. And again, this is an example. This is not to say this is going to work for you, but I take with me a mix of slow burning fuel and fast burning fuel. So for fast burning fuel, I have goose, so I have a gel consistency, and I have chomp. So I have something I can swallow and chew, and also liquid calories of like scratch is a possibility if you can't take solids. On the slow burning end, I have trail butter, which doesn't require that much chewing, but it's higher in fat and protein, and Lara bars, because sometimes my stomach actually is growling, like it's hunger. It's not so much, the mental fatigue, it's I'm hungry. So it's those four simple things that give me a variety of nutrients, tastes, textures. So that is something that you can play with. And I know I kind of skirted around the GI distress, but there are so many factors that you can play with as far as what kind of calories that you're getting.
Nice. And I think that's also another opportunity to even just email Maria and
Yeah,
ask
absolutely.
specific questions and maybe get into more nuanced answers and stuff like that, depending on your body. We're going to wrap up the after show with Maria. She's been super gracious with her time tonight. I realize we've gone very, very long tonight, but that's worth it because the show is so good. And
Yeah.
I even warned Maria beforehand. I was like, I could talk to you about this for hours. I know that there's not
I
going
know
to
I
be any
can think
shortage.
of so many questions.
So many
still.
questions.
Yeah.
And so many things.
No, it's truly an honor. And honestly, when I say I'm here as a resource for you all, I'm happy to chat with you all again. This is an honor for me, and I love this community so much. You guys are my family. Like that sounds super cheesy, but I mean it. Like I love you all. So this is such a joy for me.
Appreciate that, Maria. And it's just been so awesome to share our battles with anxiety. And it's been really nice to know another human is out there, even if it's on the same course or it's a different mountain entirely. But that like solidarity has really helped me a lot. And it's great to have partners, of course, in our lives that are just so much there. So much our rocks. A big shout out to our guest tonight, Maria Dalzot. If you are watching this or watch the main show, go show her some love on social media. You guys know what to do. And if you have additional questions or want to reach out and get maybe some individual one-on-ones, her website is where you want to do that, mariadalzotrd.com.
Correct. Yeah,
Easy.
That's it.
So go follow up. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you guys next Monday for more Ginger Runner Live. Get out
Thank
there.
you.
Race harder, party hard. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.